I'm super excited to introduce our first live workshop guest, Brian Hansen, Conversations listener Brian Hansen in Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome to the conversation. We should say something about what we're trying to do here tonight and then get to know you and figure out where we're headed with this thing. So we have been trying a lot of different things over 41 episodes, now 42, to figure out our place, what we can bring to the table, metaphorically, to help the community, to build a community, to share ideas, to interrogate ideas, to develop themes, to focus what we're about. And a couple of months ago, maybe a month ago, we had the realization. We did our AMA episode, and that was really great, where we took questions from the audience on Instagram, actually voice memos, which is really fun to hear people's voices.
Yes.
I still think Wavy won that night for the best
Wavy
voice.
Main.
Yeah. But it was great to hear the questions and the phrasing. And when people speak, it's so much more human than when they write text. It's hard to write good questions on paper. We know because we tried for many weeks, Spider and I.
Yeah.
So hearing the voice memos and sort of interacting with the community in that slightly asynchronous way, coming back with our answers, was really fun. And around the same time, we identified that we wanted to workshop people live. So Spider and I do a lot of workshops. We do sometimes a couple a week with our clients for Unfuck.
We basically start every acoustics and studio design project with a workshop to get to know the client and sort of get in their head to help make decisions.
Yeah. And we find ourselves doing it accidentally. If we are ordering coffee together, it's like we start workshopping the dude, and it's like we're just, when Spider and I together, we get in that mode of like, at the bus stop. It's like, so where are you headed with your life? It's like, I'm just getting on the number 42, bro. I just need to get out of here. But so we do a lot of workshops together, and it's become, I think, our favorite thing that we do in terms of the work.
Yeah.
And it's a process. Usually we do it in basically two halves. It's 45 minutes or an hour. And the first half is getting to know the client. And the second half is figuring out where they're headed. And so it's sort of, where are you coming from? Where are you going to? And of course, then it's, that leads to how can we help? So I think we should probably keep roughly the same form tonight and start by getting to know you, and then sort of transition into figuring out your trajectory, where you're headed, what kind of work you want to do, what resources you have available, what challenges you're facing that we can maybe help you with. So with that, tell us about you, Brian Hansen. You're in Atlanta and you make records, full-time, part-time. Tell us, give us a sense of a situational assessment.
Yeah. So I'm in Atlanta. I am part-time in music. I have a full-time 9 to 5. And it's kind of every other hour that I can squeeze it into, I'm doing music. If it's not spent with family, I have a wife and my daughter. So obviously family time is first for me. But it's as much music as I can cram in. Like 2 weeks ago, I took a day off of work to go up to do some remote recording with a friend who was hiring me to go do that kind of stuff. So thankful to have a job that's flexible. But obviously the dream is to be doing this full time, paying bills and everything 100%. So
sure. And your daughter is named Ellie. I have a daughter, Ellie. And how old is she?
Oh, wow. She's 14 months today.
Amazing.
So just a little over a year.
That's a demanding time of life.
It is.
And your wife's name?
Christy.
Christy, cool.
Yes.
And what is this day job?
Yeah, so I work for a private Christian school I work for the communications director. So it's anything creative, basically. My title is creative media manager. I do anything from photo, video, graphic design. Ruairi, like we said on the phone earlier, it was like it's something creative and not super taxing for me. So I do come home still. I don't feel drained. Like I'm not like for me, if I was an accountant, I would come home and just be empty, just because numbers are not my thing. So I'm thankful to have it, have the job be that way. Basically, it's real creative. It's real something new every day, which is cool. But
yeah, that's a big.
I want music, right? And so
yeah, but it's as an interim, as a job to pay the bills. And does your wife work, or is she home?
Yeah, so she just left her job. She was at Starbucks for 3 or 4 years, and she just left in April to be home full time with Ellie.
Nice, that's great.
Yeah, it is.
So, and you guys are living in Atlanta. I've never been, so I don't have a sense of that city. Is it sprawling and suburban? Is it very dense and high rise? What does it feel like in Atlanta?
Yeah. There's a lot of suburbs. I live in the biggest county in the state, it's Gwinnett County. So there's tons of towns obviously in that county. So it's really big. I don't know numbers of population, but it's pretty big, and it's been home since I was 2. So
nice. So you have family in the area too?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like 20 minutes away. So.
So, how old are you now?
32.
And when did music happen? What was the first musical experience, or when did you start playing or recording or whatever it was that got you in? School band or garage band, or what was it?
I don't know. I think my parents saw something in me. Went the classic route of piano lessons. Didn't love it. I think because of the songs that are in those intro books. I sort of understand now why those songs exist, but
Greensleeves
at the time,
killer track.
Yeah,
I know. Was that a thing here? Greensleeves for piano lessons?
Definitely, of course.
Yeah. But at that time, it was like these songs are boring. It's all developing like rudiments, right? Like it's But anyways, so I think after maybe 2 or 3 years, I kind of told my parents, "Hey, I want to not do piano lessons." They were cool with it, which is great, but they said, "You got to pick something else." So I picked the next coolest instrument, which was trombone, and did that for maybe 2 or 3 years, middle school band, maybe a year into high school. And, it was fun. I enjoyed the music crew and crowd at my school, but I think at some point, I turned 13 and I had asked for a guitar. And I think around that point is probably when I pulled out a band full time. But, I had a band then in high school, and we wrote songs in the band room at lunch kind of thing. So anyways, at some point we got to actually have original songs and got to record in some guy's basement. And I think of that as really where I kind of caught the bug of like, whoa, this studio stuff is cool. Like, I can't even tell you what kind of gear he had or anything. Like, sorry if you're going to ask that, but like,
no.
It was like,
way more interested in the experience than the gear.
Yeah, I'm wondering what your band sounded like. Like, what was the sort of style? Thing? Like,
we were
in the style of.
I would probably say like Jet.
Word.
Mm.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah. It was fun. It was one of those, like, we won a battle of the bands at one point, and got to do some more, got free recording time out of that. And, so we did all right for maybe 2 years or so.
So you're 15, 16, 17, playing in the basement, making demos and recording original songs, doing some shows.
Yeah, we did play shows.
Yeah.
I think shows were cool, but there was just something about the studio and I think it feels strange to say, but the organizational aspect of being like, hey, so you're going to show up at 5 o'clock after school, and we're going to record this bass part. Like, I felt like at some level I was almost the manager. I was the only one who was at all the sessions. Everybody else just came in and did their part.
Yes.
But I loved to be there and be like, that was definitely the take. And I wasn't necessarily producing it.
Sounds like it.
I guess maybe that's what was happening, but
Yeah.
I just like to be there, and so that's where I think I caught the bug for sure.
You had a sense of the whole that maybe the other guys didn't have, or they would at the end when they heard it, but they didn't have it while it was going down.
The vision.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I was really tight with the guy who wrote all the songs. Like he pretty much was just the guy he wrote all the lyrics and all the chord progressions. And at some level, I was sort of like just his scribe. Just like I was in the room and I wrote it down. Like I was like watching what he played, or he would tell me, "Yep, A minor, C, F."
I love it. I
would write down his lyrics or whatever. Thinking about it now, it feels kind of silly, but I knew his vision for it. I was there when it was born. So I think that's part of why I liked the being there for every session, is because I get it. He wasn't at every session. So
witnessing a new thing come into the world, that's exciting.
Don't have many clients
incredible.
who can articulate these sort of OG moments of sort of serving someone else's creativity, because that's a huge part of the gig, and a lot of people aren't quite as in touch with that. The way you describe what the only guy who's at all the session and watching this sort of thing emerge.
Yeah,
and
it's all very ego aside.
That's what I'm picking up on, is that's
for a teenager.
I feel like
service.
I feel like I should interject there, because that's my exact story, and that hasn't gone away too. I think that's the most helpful characteristic of why I'm successful in my career, is understanding the position in the room as the servant, or the servant to the song, though, and not necessarily the bass player. And that hasn't gone away. And I have a similar moment with getting to, but I was actually the one to actually record the band, because I had a little digital 16, track mixer at one point in my life, and I got to understand what it was like to decide all the parts that made it. So. I'm really relating to that, like even to have that sort of, like Rory's bringing up, the clarity in that moment of, oh, that's what I liked. The organizational part really got me too. That's my favorite part, which is why I have excess backup, and you can take that as many steps further as you want. And that makes you become more reliable. These are just all really fundamental characteristics of a successful engineer. So I'm glad we're starting off on this foot.
I
think we're all attracted to setting a time and a place to do a thing, having a mission.
And within that designated time, chaos can occur.
Yeah.
But we're all there to
You're
witness
making
it.
order of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So on the timeline where you're the scribe, you're capturing these songs, and you've done some demos and recordings. What comes next? At some point, you must get your own piece of recording equipment, whatever that was, a 4-track or something.
Oh gosh, I got my first piece of recording equipment was. Oh gosh, is it 002?
That was your first?
002?
Or like an M box. Maybe it's an M box. I think it was like 2 channels, like maybe one mic pre and one like DI or whatever.
Sure.
You skipped a 4-track? Damn.
Yeah, he's 32.
I know.
Different-
Cassette 4-tracks of this generation.
So
There's times where I wish I did have that experience of doing that, but
You're not
it's
missing
never
out.
too late.
Yeah.
it's
I can always fish around on eBay.
Get a
and find-
Tascam, whatever.
yeah. I mean, I don't know if there's reason to be nostalgic about 4-tracks. Maybe. I mean, if you said to me, which is more important, the experience of recording on 4-track cassette, or the fact that I got to record on 4-track cassette without a telephone, without an iPhone
next to you, yeah.
That's a much bigger influence on that creative period of my life, of being in band rooms where, people were either talking to each other or to you,
Yes.
or they were spacing out. And that was it. There was no internet in the room. There was no girlfriend on IG or potential girlfriend or whatever. It was just the people in the room and the music.
Yeah.
I have to say something, because I know this isn't my workshop, but I've never thought of that before. That's That's blowing my mind. That's what we had. We had clarity in the room. That was the only thing that mattered.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I would not have characterized my 16-year-old self as being clear on anything.
No, you wouldn't. But by default, being in the room, single focused. That's the
fewer distractions.
Yeah,
way more present in the room. I mean,
I've never even thought about that.
The intensity of focus that we could conjure in my parents' garage, me and a couple of bandmates, because it was you would just get lost for 4 hours in a groove or a hook or a So that's, I think when I think of nostalgia, I think of that of pre-phone times rather than analog anything or old gear or whatever. So you start recording, and I don't want this to become a labored kind of like, and then I had lunch on Tuesday the 22nd of September 19 whatever. You start recording, and tell us about what sort of there's something between that moment and now. There's stuff that you did. You did some live sound, or you recorded, or you stage managed, or what kind of things did you do and to get to today?
Yeah, there were some live sound moments. There was I would write a lot of my own original songs, I guess, and I was reflecting on the fact that I used to write these little jams or whatever recently, and I came to the realization of I didn't really write these songs because the songs were in me and had to come out. I kind of wrote them so that I had something to make sound cool.
Yes,
they were great. They were great little songs, and I have a few that are that I definitely still like. But the songwriting aspect, I think, for a while that was something I considered. It's oh, maybe I could write songs, but I would get a verse and a chorus and just live there and just mix it, and probably at some point mix it to death. And then that's when I was just over the song.
Yeah. You were creating the raw material that you could then mold sonically. Yeah. And you could try a flanger on it or whatever. You're trying the different effects. That makes a lot of sense.
So I did record a few people through college, and it was just little bits and pieces that here and there.
And did you ever?
But I think I was pretty clueless still at that point on engineering. But
did you ever do time working with anyone? Did you ever have a mentor or work part time at a studio or anything?
I didn't. No.
So all self-taught.
Yeah, the first studio experience with what I would say is with a professional was my former youth pastor. His brother worked in the Christian music industry, and he drove me up to Nashville for a 48-hour kind of thing, and we just hung out with him, literally just watched him add production to songs, watched him mix a song, and just literally delivered a CD. Remember those?
Sure do.
So, delivered it to, I guess, a mastering guy. We literally walked in the back of his house while he was sleeping or something weird like that. But anyways.
I hope he's listening to this.
Yeah.
At what point did you realize or come to understand that engineering was a thing you wanted to do? The way you described the passion you have for it now, you would love to sort of move on from the day gig and really thrive as a family from your work in music. When did that happen for you? What was that like?
I think it started, that was 2016. I think just prior to that, I was living at home and I was working my job. So I was paying $100 rent to my dad, and that was my only expense. And so I saved up and bought some cool preamps, bought some speakers that sounded halfway decent, some other instruments and whatever. And I think I got really frustrated because I was like, I have this stuff. Why is nobody wanting to record with me? And I was never talking about it to people, I think, is really what it was. It's I had all this fun stuff, but I wasn't actually really doing anything with it. I wasn't going to shows to try to meet an artist or talk to friends and say, hey, if you know anybody who wants to record, I'd love to do it. Like, I want to record them.
You weren't sharing with people that you were so passionate about this thing, so they didn't.
Yeah,
they couldn't read your mind, right?
Yeah.
Was that just absent-minded, or were you kind of like, I'm not good enough, I don't have the chops yet, or I'm missing,
or did
I don't
you
have
think
a
the
UAD7
gear was
or
the
whatever?
key?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, totally thought the gear was like, if you build it, they'll come, sort of thing. Like, oh great, I have this room, even though it was in my parents' basement, like it was. It worked, and it was private enough from where they lived, so it was like, I could have people over, and I did occasionally, but it wasn't. I never thought about it as
a social, your career taking off as a social phenomenon, not so much of a asset thing.
It should be noted. I think our first episode is called the Mixdown Industrial Complex, and it should be noted that myth, it does not sort of come from nowhere. That if you have the gear, great things will happen. That's still the myth that sort of pervades the industry, is that if you just get the latest version of Pro Tools, and if you just get the Sound Toys bundle and the whatever, the 1073, and then it happens.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's just not true, because we know countless people with all the things for whom it's not happening, and other people who are rocking very sketchy rigs indeed and making records. That's of course not preferable, but that's the force of will, or the ideas, or the creativity is the thing that drives it, not the having the gear just doesn't.
And the strength of the social network. Yeah, the circles you run in, and how your ideas get filtered through.
Yeah. So you're acquiring gear, and you have, at some point you have a decent rig, and you're not quite getting as many reps as you'd like.
Feeling frustrated.
Yes. Yeah.
So where is that in the arc? Is that now, or where are you now with it? How would you describe your recording career, part-time as it is now, or mixing, or writing, or what is it? What's your, so we know you have a full-time day job, and we know you have family. See, of the music time, let's think of that music time as 100%. How, split it up for me. What does it look like? Is it 80% mixing for other people? Is it 80% recording?
It's probably a 70% mixing, 30% producing and recording. Mm-hmm. Typically, they end up being hand in hand with. Yes. I think I was talking with somebody about this the other day. Only like one project where I think I've only engineered.
Right.
Like where I just was there to help them track the drums and make it sound sweet. Mm-hmm. And that was that.
And this is a setup in your house?
Most of the time, drums I end up doing not remote, but off at a studio that's maybe 40 minutes from me. They have a cool old console, and
nice.
So it's fun.
But when you're overdubbing or mixing, all that happens at home in a room at the house.
Yep.
So we have pretty much everything you're doing. You're producing, recording, mixing. You're sort of doing everything. At some point, you'll have the choice, some point soon, to specialize or not. And if you had that choice right now, if we said, hey, we can make it happen, you will never touch another fader, you will just be a producer. Or, hey, you'll never make another production decision, you'll just mix. I know it's a silly distinction, but just, is there something you're hankering after? Are you done with dealing with any aspect of it, or are you still enthusiastic about all of it, or do you want to sort of keep pushing in all directions at once?
I think, excuse me, I think that I would like to take the keys to a mixing gig, if that's what you're offering. Mm-hmm. That, I think I just enjoy the sounds that I hear other people create. There's something weird, and I'll say that I haven't had the experience to just produce something. Almost always I'm producing it and mixing it.
Yes.
And so, I think you guys have mentioned it before, but there's this emotional attachment sometimes to the cool string sound we got, and whatever the sound is, you sort of like it, and it can be a really hard thing for me to detach. Mm-hmm. So, and a lot of times I think that's hopefully this doesn't sound like I'm blaming anybody, but just like, it's just been budgetary typically.
Mm-hmm.
Like we don't have the budget to send it off to John to mix, but I would love that. But because I think not having that experience has, not held me back, but has pushed me more into mixing, because I think mixing has felt, I feel like I just see the way to provide for my family much more clearly, because it tends to be, or it feels like I know roughly about how much time it might take for me to mix a song. I'm not sitting there, with like, okay, I know I'm supposed to be like packing up to go home, but he's about to get the take, or, like we need a couple more stacks on something, or, those kind of things. And full credit to Christy, my wife, like she's been so supportive and so cool with that kind of stuff. And we've learned how to say like, okay, before I leave for maybe a recording gig, it's like, my plan is to be home by 6. I'll text you and let you know how it's going, because we're paying for studio time or whatever. So she's been really great with that. So yeah.
So it sounds like a mix business is a little more orderly and predictable than production life.
I think so,
and that appeals to you at this time of life and fits well with your sort of family plan. I think that's true for a lot of people. Yeah,
and production life at any kind of higher level is hard to do away from the big centers and away from the big genres. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You are in a big center, but for hip hop and R&B, but sort of away from that, it's hard to make a full-time living producing.
I would think so.
Chicago,
right?
Like there are producers in Chicago, but it's not an easy place to be.
Yeah,
and then much more difficult as you go out from there to smaller cities or towns, unless you can sort of craft. Maybe you're in a band and you can, if you're the singer songwriter in a band and you have credibility, you can leverage that to produce or whatever. And people do that and can do it more remote. So here's an exercise that Spider and I do a lot with clients. We're going to press a button. It's a magic button, and it will give you and Christy and Ellie a wonderful upper middle class lifestyle forever. Houses paid, 2 cars, vacation, retirement, healthcare, schooling, college for your kid. No more worries about money. Not baller money, not Bezos private jet money, just good all-American dream money. That's done. We just press the button. Tomorrow morning when you wake up, what do you do? And that goes anywhere in the world with you. So do you stay in Atlanta, or do you say, fuck it, I'm out, we're going to Alaska or south of France? Do you never mix another record and only produce because we've just taken away the financial motivator? Or do you never produce another record and only mix? What does it look like when you have total freedom?
Yeah, that's a heck of a question. I think that I would just dive super deep into mixing. I think that I would stay where I'm at for the time being, but spend a lot more time potentially like traveling and doing weekends or just trips to like Nashville, trips to LA, basically to meet people, to expand my network of people that I know, people that are not just making music, but that are even just in the industry, A&R people and all that stuff. I think mixing just feels like it's where I can get lost. I think Spider, you've talked about like this, like when you're is it like when you're in like this kind of like flow state, it's like very much playful and very like you're like playing, and that's how it feels when I mix. And not always, because sometimes you have issues and those are frustrating, but that's part of it. But you work to get through those so that you can keep having that playfulness and like, yeah.
So you would take that freedom to build relationships with people, absorb things from different perspectives, learn from people, and bring that experience back to the studio to enrich your mix practice. That's sort of how I'm hearing it.
Yes, yeah.
And you also said diving super deep into mixing.
Yeah.
Before that, what does that mean? Like into the study of it, into the practice of it? Like what would that look like? What's the first step of doing that?
Yeah. I think it's just reps. It's like, I don't know. I don't want to discredit my current state of mixing abilities, but I know I have room to grow. I mean, I think everybody knows that, but I think that I have, I always see room for improvement, and it's chasing after that with even more like full force, I guess.
So like it would be in the practice itself. So building the network and practicing. Like now that you had the money and the time and the space,
yes,
you would spend it practicing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And the goal, so there are different, something we try and get at in workshops is figure out what's motivating people. Some people want to be seen. It's very important to them that other people see them as being good at what they do or having created value. For other people, it's a kind of perfectionism that drives them. They're chasing something. They're chasing these highs maybe that they've experienced briefly in their creative lives. For other people, it's meditative, and it's kind of it's genuinely relaxing and therapeutic and healthy and helpful. When you talked about sort of waking up tomorrow morning free of financial constraint, of course you've got a wife and a kid, but you're free going to these other cities. It's to gather techniques and inspiration and viewpoints and experiences in different rooms and stuff to bring back. So I guess I'm driving at the thing that motivates you. Is it to make a beautiful piece of work? Is it to be seen making? And it's okay. I don't mean to in any
put
way
value
sort of
judgments.
Value judgment or put shade on the fact.
It all matters.
It's very if you need to be seen as doing good work, then that's what you need. You know what I mean? It's important. So I guess the motivator around your work, what does winning look like is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
For you.
I think there's definitely an aspect of being seen, but I think I haven't really thought through this. So it's obviously a great question. I think that, I think it's to be seen and to be helping other people like make their music. I think I've come to that realization of like, okay, these, like the songs aren't in me, but man, so many other people have incredible songs in them. And I want to help that. Like I want to help it cross the finish line, basically.
Yeah. Which is back to our original inspiration, these moments in your band and as acting as the scribe. So I mean, for the audience, I think we should probably put a point on this. There are people for whom making money is the motivator. They maybe there was lack in their childhood and they're hungry inside and they keep making money and they keep being hungry and they keep filling a hole that can't be filled. There are other people for whom it's Grammys at all costs, Grammys and recognition. If you said to me, I can give you Grammys, but they'll be for shitty records, that's kind of heartbreaking to me. Mm-hmm. But for someone else, it's like, I'll take the fucking Grammys because I run on Grammys. Like I need that recognition. I need to be seen as the guy. And all of these are legitimate. And I think it's really important for people to sort of
own their motivation,
own it and meet it,
and harness it. Yeah.
Because these things are sort of fundamental engines of your motivation in the morning. If that's what gets you out of bed, I mean, I see it all the time on Instagram. People, they're, you know, these young rappers, and they're like, one day, you know, mark my words, I'm going to do it. And it's kind of like, it's a little bit goofy and a little bit flexy. And it's also like, fuck it, own it.
Yeah.
If you're saying it, do it. You know, Toby's a good example of someone who's got that sort of positive, sort of focused energy on the future, on success. You know, I'm not saying he's motivated by just Grammys or whatever, but,
of course
but
not.
that kind of, you know, putting it out into the world. So I'm just putting a point in this that for the audience, for people generally, it's knowing what's driving you forward, especially if you do these exercises like taking away, because of course what's driving me forward tomorrow is feeding my kids. But what if that was taken away? And what if I can achieve some kind of comfort, and then I get to choose more what I say no to? Will I never master another hip hop track, or will I never master another trailer project or whatever? If I could choose. So having a sense of those questions and answers I think is useful.
It's helpful in shaping a preferred future.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do one more little exercise, and I'm going to turn it over to the guys, and I'm going to stop kind of leading quite as much. Well, because I want everybody's input, and I particularly want.
We'll jump in.
Yeah, I want.
Do your thing, baby.
So another exercise we do, and it's something that we've sort of teased out a lot at the table here, is a lot of people, because of their intrinsic motivations, are they are in a kind of a race that they didn't design, or a game that they didn't set up, and they're racing other people or playing against other people, competitors. I'm using a little air quotes here, people, and they're buying gear they don't necessarily need or want, taking clients that they don't necessarily want, working stupid hours. And what we often talk about is, again, in the spirit of what does winning look like? What does your ideal day look like? What is an ideal creative day? So, or not creative day, an ideal day, period. I guess in the context of the conversation, it's got a work element, but where do you wake up? How do you start it? I'm literally from eyes open. Is it, you know, is it coffee and an hour of peace before you meet your wife and daughter? Or is it like, you know, kid jumping on your forehead? That's the best thing to wake up to. And then where do you walk? Do you meditate? Do you play heavy metal guitar? Do you smash televisions in your backyard? What do you do? And then, you know, what's the arc of the day?
Yeah, I think I wake up, have coffee, and even this does happen even now, and I've really enjoyed it. It's a 7:30-ish wake up, and it's coffee with Christy and Ellie, and it's probably about an hour of Christy and I talking, and we're both introverts, so I think our evenings tend to be a little bit more us time. We definitely still chat and talk, but it sort of feels like when we wake up in the morning, we have things to say or to talk about, or things we forgot from last night that we didn't mention or whatever. And I think from there, it's what I would love for it to be is to walk to the detached garage that's behind my house, which will be my studio, and jump into mixing. And then I think it's a break for lunch with Christy and Ellie.
Tell me about the record you're mixing. What kind of record is it? For who? For where? For
yeah. Is
it big band, or is it grimy?
Is it John Mayer?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, I think I would say it's like somewhere between Killers. I think it's is it Local Natives? But then the next day it could be Casey Musgraves. And who else? Coldplay. I mean, I don't know. Like it could be. I don't even know what
That gives a
box that
sense.
fits in.
Alternative rock into
yeah.
singer-songwriter kind of
Yes.
pop.
Yeah.
So
I think after
lunchtime?
lunch, lunch, it's, I always enjoy a good sandwich, so it's probably a sandwich, yeah. And then probably back to the studio and either jumping into another mix or finishing the first one, and hopefully then back in the house, which is 20 feet away, 30 feet away, whatever.
People
and,
in the studio, assistant, clients attending, buddies coming through, or peace and quiet and solitude.
Yeah, monastic mixing experience or more communal.
Yeah. If this is a dream world, I would love both. Maybe the first half, I would probably say the first half of the day, just let me do my thing. And then maybe it's like, hey, come swing through in the evening or the afternoon, and let's give me some live feedback and some mix notes, kind of in person. I'd love that.
So that collaborative social hang, coffee,
absolutely.
and sort of shared vision of what the project could be. That's in your ideal day. That's something that you want. Because again, just to put a point in it for people listening, some people begrudgingly accept that and don't really want anyone in their studio, and other people thrive on literal chaos. 30 people jumping up and down on the couch, and they're in heaven. So again, knowing it, because we're working towards your preferred future, and being able to communicate that to clients, inviting that in the opening email. Here's how I love to mix. I love to work in the morning on my own. I love when clients come through in the evening if they can, or whatever. You can invite your future in a much sort of healthier way,
Yeah.
So we're into, your clients have gone home, and we're at dinner time. What does the evening look like?
I might ask, can the client stay for dinner?
The client can, in this dream future, they can do anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you've got family close, right?
Dinner.
So, again, this is the ideal day, an idealized day. So is it some mix of clients and family and other friends? Is it like a bigger dinner kind of thing in any house that you could design, and
I think
a dinner table as long as you want? Like, what is that? What's the ideal?
Yeah. I definitely think it would be a maybe table for 8. And just keeping it small and keeping it client's wife or girlfriend or partner, whoever, and maybe a couple other friends who are either in that person's band or they work with them, or in some sense, or whatever. So
some hosting.
Christy and I love to host. Yeah.
It's a lovely thing. I mean, one of the best things about being music is the people. Sadie and I were just talking about it. Maybe we talked about it at lunch on Sunday, Spider, but this last year with COVID, Spider and I have gotten to know a whole bunch of new clients, really great people. And it's like, I can't wait to hang out with them and my wife and kids. It's like, they have kids or not. And it's like, just getting together and with Kian or with Shirley.
Household hangs.
Like you did with Moritz and Malvika last night. It's like these new client friends, and sort of they're creative, interesting, funny people. And it's a real privilege that we kind of want to hang out with our collaborators. That isn't always the case in your work. A lot of people are happy to leave the office and not meet Tom from accounting again until Monday morning, I like the table for 8. That's still intimate. It's a good group. It can get loud. It can get fun. Yeah. But it's still intimate. So into the evening, you said we finished dinner and we've had some family time and put your daughter to bed. Yeah. And you said that at the end of the evening, what does wind down Brian look like? Is it a glass of wine and a book? Is it a podcast? Is it TV? What does that feel like? It's typically, as of late, it's been working our way through a show. Probably something on the lighter side.
you know, a little funnier, or a
Handmaid's
good crime
Tale or
show.
something.
Yeah, yeah, something light. Yeah,
Something hilarious.
New
like
Masters of None coming, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's out.
yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, nice.
yeah, and probably a little, if I'm being honest, scrolling through Instagram and
yeah.
just staying aware of the nonsense that goes on. So
Yeah.
Hmm. Staying abreast.
yeah,
I think, having done it a few times with Spider, that gives me a pretty good sense of where you came from and what you like, and hints at where you'd like to go. Do you want to tell us about the garage studio? The guys don't know about this. I got some photos from you earlier.
cool.
So you guys own the home you live in?
yeah. We bought it in July.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
biggie.
thank you. Yeah,
So you've got a 20 by 20, like a 2-car deal garage.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
And what are you doing with it?
Yeah, so it's going to be basically a control room, which is the main room. It's almost 14 feet by 23 and a half deep.
Sexy.
Yeah. And then to the left of where kind of mixed position will be is, I've been calling it a live room. It's like just shy of 10 feet wide, so it's not really a live room, but basically where I would throw amps, I would probably cut vocals in there. Basically, like, probably would never track drums in this studio, but I'd be okay with leaving that option open if somebody, for a budget reason or whatever wanted to do it. And then there's a bathroom. It's basically just those 3 spaces. So from the front door, you walk into the back of the control room, and then on the left is the bathroom and the live room.
When you're mixing, would you be sending stuff like out of Nogs to the amp and reamping things, or is this really for passion projects like production things? Because we're sort of we're blurring that line again between mixing and producing, and just wondering, is that like a practicality for the moment, because that 30% of your income's coming from like recording and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think it's leaving it open. I think even if I did jump into, if I was mixing full time, I would want to have, like, I have a friend in Indianapolis who I'm going to be producing an EP for him, and it's definitely much more in that lane of like passion project. He has a full-time gig in marketing, but he challenged himself one year to write 50 songs, and he and I kind of whittled them down and, determined these are the top 10, and now these are the 3 that we wanted to probably put out as a collection. So basically just leaving room for those sort of projects, because I think I'm always going to enjoy taking those things on, because I think my brain enjoys that just shifting of gears into a whole nother mode, because it's just like, I'm going to do my best to not think about, how I would mix this. It's just going to be like, let's focus on, is this the right sound? Is this the right part? Or is this the right part? Is it the right sound? And then hit record and record it and move on,
Ruairi, I know you're driving somewhere, but I'm wondering, Brian, like, what is your biggest frustration right now?
That's exactly
what's
where
the
I was
hardest thing about your situation?
Very next question.
I think, and if this doesn't answer your question, just tell me. I think
only you can answer this question.
Well, I think it's getting that network of it's network and it's reps.
So the time to get the reps in, like, right?
Yeah, and I think
and also the time to forge those relationships.
Yeah, yeah, because I haven't, in my experience, I think the few people that I've met, maybe excluding like college, the people that I've met outside of college, it hasn't been like, oh, dude, you record? Boom, let's do it. Like tomorrow, let's do it. It's been a thing of like, it's been much more, like, let's lay the foundation for a good relationship, and then move forward and not rush into it. I know somebody, a guy I've worked with, or I guess am working with, at some point had expressed that he's chosen to work with me because I wasn't pushy. I wasn't like, oh, dude, we got to record. Like, I'm not getting to know him just to record. I'm getting to know him because I think he seems like an awesome person. And it's great that he writes songs, and it's always in me to want to jump the gun, and ask that question of like, hey, yeah, like, oh, cool. Like, hey, I record. I have this, little space where we can record. But I think I know that the relationship is important.
So is the frustration around relationships a time thing? Like, you don't have the time to maybe spend with people because you have responsibilities? Is it the time to like get away and travel, like you mentioned before? Is it a time-based thing, or is there like a access problem? Like, you don't have access to the people that you would want to learn from, or like, where's that frustration in the relationship side?
Yeah, I think it is both. It's both of those aspects. I know that the time is big, because I wanna be spending that time, obviously with my family, but then I also want to be spending the time to build the relationships with people, and because I don't know, like art is a scary thing, and you wanna have the artist's trust, so that they can just feel safe in recording their parts or their mixing.
That makes a lot of sense. This was coming to me earlier, and we were talking when Ruairi was talking about being seen or being respected, well regarded, have a good reputation, but like the pleasure and the value and the motivating force that is being trusted by people, especially at a deep level, like with their babies, with their art, I think is a powerful motivator. And that's kind of like what I'm pulling out of what Brian's saying.
And the underpinnings of that are trusting yourself.
Yes.
So no, so we're in a sort of a chicken and egg loop, because it's possible that you might not trust yourself with a high stakes session until you've had enough reps and you've been in enough rooms, but you don't get in those rooms and build the reps until you trust yourself so you can put yourself out there. So, something that Spider and I talk a lot about with the Unfuck thing, helping people get clarity around their work, what they're trying to do, and then having that extend into their room and their acoustics and
have a studio serve those goals. Yeah.
Literally, some they can do a mix and know that it's the best mix they could do, or a recording. That feeling finds its way into your emails and your voice when you take a call from a client, into the way that you react to notes. If your studio is an acoustic shit show, and every mix is a fucking
full of doubt
surprise box when you get to the car, and you have no idea where the 808's going to be. And then when the client hits you with notes, it's like, fuck, here we go again. Fuck, you're on that footing. As opposed to if your studio is, let's say you had a perfect studio, the client hits you with notes, it's like, I heard it different to them. It's not like I missed some giant thing. So then the project immediately becomes, well, like, let's get on the same page. Let's, like John often talks about here, let's get them on the phone. Let's have a conversation about what they were looking for. Oh, they want more energy. They want it to be more exciting up front or whatever. So it informs everything you do in terms of what you put into the world, that confidence. So I guess it leads to the next question I was going to ask you. And I want to sort of come back to the challenges and the frustrations. I've made some notes, and I'm sure the guys will have some thoughts too. But let's say right now that I'm in your area and I'm making records, or I'm doing stuff, and you're available to me, but so are other engineers. I can record or mix with other people. Why would I go with you? What is it about you that you think is So I think there's we're identifying a kind of very humble servant kind of thing, which is a positive, not all positive, but there's positive elements there.
Yeah.
There is definitely a sort of an ethical responsibility theme coming through, that you take it very seriously that you're working on someone else's art. And that's something that resonates for me a lot. It's a big deal when someone trusts you with their record. What else would set you apart from your peers, or, what is your, even if it's emergent or something you're just have an inkling of, what is the thing? There are some people who are really good at drawing out a song from apparent chaos. There are other people who are really good at making stuff hit, just that intensity. And if we were to name off, if we talk about mixing, if we were to say Serban, Jason Joshua, Spike, Tony Maserati, if we were to name those people, you have a sort of a palette, a thing they do well in your mind. Most people, and I think most of us would agree,
a reason to hire them.
What Serban does well, and what Serban maybe isn't as good at. So, is there anything? Are you in touch yet with anything like that about you?
Do
clients give you feedback and say, we like working with you because you care more than the last guy we worked with, or you went the extra mile, or whatever?
I think I've had people sort of consistently say that I've been patient with them, and whether it was like their first time recording or not, I think that I've kind of worked until like we're both happy with things, and priority to them on being happy with it because it's theirs. But I think if we can both be like really pumped on the results, then I think that's that's that. I don't feel like that fully answers the question.
It doesn't. Yeah. It's a fundamental thing that has to happen with all engineers.
Sure.
It's not a differentiator.
Yeah. When you're talking about some of those mix guys, like, I don't know if I've figured that out yet.
It's okay not to have.
Of what that, the way that I mix is the sound or whatever. Like, I know I can name some guys that I like their mixes and would want to aspire to have mixes like them, but I don't think that's really helpful. Like,
I think it might be helpful.
Go
ahead and tell us.
Okay. I mean, I really like Tom Elmhurst's mixes.
Do you want to tell us what you like about these mixes? What do you like about Tom's mixes?
I think
let's identify a few aspects.
Yeah. I think I always hear his mixes as like, how is it that warm and still that clear? And maybe that's more people than just him are doing that, obviously. But, and he's doing it on records that are just brilliantly produced and written and all that stuff. But, I think of he mixed a Miley Cyrus EP, and I actually don't know if he did the track or not, but I forget the name of the song. It's the last one on the EP. It's the She Is Coming EP. But I remember listening to it and just thinking, like, he just took this not in a pop mix, maybe traditional pop mix or whatever, where there's a good bit of high end, but it was so warm, but it's still, I don't know. The warmth aspect is, I just hear it in his mixes, and it feels very moody, and I really like that.
That's interesting. That's the twist.
Yeah.
Who
else?
Going through the list here in my head. I think there's, I don't know. I mean, Chad Blake is hard not to like. I hear us. I mean, I don't know him personally, but as far as mixes go, I like what I hear, and him, Sean Everett, and then this guy is not necessarily super huge or anything, but there's a guy in Nashville, Micah Talks. He does a little bit of everything, producing, mixing, and it always feels like cool, interesting, ear candy things that he does in his mixes that don't take away from the song, but just feel unique, and I like them.
And again, the engineers sort of they sort of show us the taste and the aesthetic, because you just haven't named 4 hip hop mixers or it's they're all working in that sort of indie rock, indie pop sort of space.
There's a kind of immediacy and like a grasping it by the nettles kind of approach.
Yeah, there's something emerging there. Michael, what thinks you of all of this?
Well, I was looking up Chad Blake, and Tom, and the artists they work with. And then on Chad Blake's Wikipedia, says that he's aged somewhere between 65 and 66. I don't know why. But
is there an age between 65 and 66?
Yeah, 65.5.
I'm okay with just calling that 65. I think he's just 65.
Yeah. Wikipedia begs to differ, but
let's just call it right now.
So it's weird. But yeah, just thinking about that, thinking about where you're at, I'm like, all right, so that's 30 years. Okay, so we have time as a factor. I've just been thinking a lot this whole time. And that's a total aside. Just there is time here, hopefully, that we have to work with. So with that said, I'm coming back to these two things of building relationships and practice. And I know there's this practice trap that you can get into at some point, and I don't think you're there yet, which is, am I good enough yet? Like, is there a threshold in which now you're good enough and now you can build the relationships you want? Or like, you could do that too soon, but you could also do that too late. Do you have any sort of idea as to what the threshold for practice would even look like? Or like, I don't know how much experience you have. I mean, how many tours of duty have you been on at this point? How many records? How many songs?
Yeah, I don't know if I know the count, and not because it's so many, like I don't. I just haven't
65.
I haven't
66.
really counted. Yeah, exactly. I think I've probably worked.
Can we start with a
on,
range, like 100 songs?
No,
100. 50?
That feels like it
60?
might be generous, but 40 probably feels safe to say.
Cool. So 40 songs over the past
5 years.
5 years. Okay. Cool. So okay. So there's definitely room there. I mean, is there a goal there in terms of was that enough in terms of, did you feel like that was enough to get the practice in? Did you want more and just didn't get them, or?
Yeah, I think. Sorry, can you say that one more time?
Was it that number of songs per year, if we were to just divide it across?
Sure.
Which, I forget the figures, but it's like over 10 per year. Did you feel like that was enough? Was that lacking? Like, did you need more than that to feel like you were ready to take on the next set of 10?
Yeah. I think I wanted more for sure. There are some songs I think that I feel very happy with, and I hear it, come on a like one of my playlists or something, and I don't hear myself in it. And
Transcendent.
that has always felt like that's when I feel like I know I'm done, is I don't hear a delay throw I did. I just hear the song and it being finished. And yeah.
Wait, what's that like?
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Transcendence.
That's very
amazing.
eloquent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to a lot of mixers, and I haven't heard anyone say it like that. That's
I don't
very-
actually. I'm pushing back. I don't think that's possible.
No, I know.
I
I've
think the
experienced
spirit
this.
of that is.
Yeah.
is
I love
very-
it.
It's a
I love it.
wholeness.
I
It's
don't
the
wanna-
wholeness of the thing.
Mhm.
It's not
Well, of
literally
course,
you
of-
can't hear that you did.
No, of course,
Yeah,
because
I
the
mean,
moment that you
Yeah.
listen
Yeah.
further than the song length down, you're going to hear something. That's why I'm like, I don't quite understand it fully.
Well, if you
I'd like
listen
to.
back to mix you did like 4 years ago or 5 years ago, it's like you're not like it's coming over the phone speaker. You're not visualizing the Pro Tools session anymore. You're like got some distance from it.
Well, if it's if it's a binary thing, you either get lost in the song or you don't because of your shit, because of your, oh fuck, I fucked up the vocal, or if I didn't, the bass doesn't hit. And if you get lost in the song, then you're done. You did it. So that's a big win. I think that's a nice way of putting it. So you go, Michael.
I
yeah.
want to keep going here.
Yeah, go.
So, how many of those 50 do you have that relationship with?
I think not as many as I'd like. It's likely 5 to 7, probably.
Mm-hmm. And what makes those projects unique? Why those? Why not the other 5 to 7? You know?
Yeah, I think the others that I don't hear, it's kind of what they were saying. Like I just hear, like, man, that's not where the kick drum needs to sit, or wow, that lead vocal was way too hot. Like, what was I thinking?
Were they all over, like, concentrated in one year? Like, are they all the more recent songs, or are this scattered kind of throughout?
I think it's starting to move that way, where more of the recent stuff. But then there's a song I did in 2018 that is just like a little double single thing. That was I like listening to those songs, and I don't hear myself in them.
So there's this internal drive and internal feedback that you're giving, where I would say if you're having transcendent experiences listening to your own work, which I'm not saying you have all the time. I'm trying to paint you as like, every time I hear my work, I'm just in another place. I get, I'm not trying to say that, but the fact that you're experiencing that's really good feedback. I'm wondering from an external point of view, is your customer, your client, feeling that way on those songs, or have you received feedback that's also pointing in a upwards direction?
Yeah. I think for that double single, I definitely think that we both really felt like we landed the plane on this one, and it like we did it well. Of more recent stuff that I've done, almost always people walk away happy with the result. And I think that occasionally I don't feel that way, but if I know that they're happy, I'm able to like let go of it. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does.
Okay. Cool.
Well, the only question I have is, are we in conversation or not? Everything else, there's no right answer.
Yeah.
So we are in conversation, all is well. I have another question though about the relationship side of things. So like, to me, it seems the practice side of things, internally, you're getting good feedback. Externally, you're getting good feedback. So if you're saying that these two things are sort of both at play and they need to progress for you to feel more comfortable and to build this momentum, I'd say, all right, it seems just, without listening to anything, hearing anything, evaluating anything, it's like you're doing great in the practice side of things. Maybe increase the amount so you can get more practice in. But it seems like that's going. The relationship side of things, how are those relationships going? So like, what's the worst experience you've had with a client so far?
Thankfully, none of them have been too terrible. I think there's been gigs. I think I had a gig that there was just not clear communication on what exactly my role was. I came in to track it, and I was going to be mixing it. It was one of those like, hey, just let me come over, help you guys track it, so that, you know, it helps me when I'm mixing it. And I was, and it very well could have been on me that I assumed that I was also going to be producing it and helping give them some direction of, yes, that's totally the part, or that's not. And there was just disagreement come mix time because there was one more thing we want to add to the choruses, and because I was the producer and I honestly would probably say wrongfully trying to steer the ship too strongly. You know, it just sort of led to this kind of like, hey, am I the right guy to do this? And they were like, whoa, no. Yeah, we want you to do it, but we want to have the part we want to have in our song, you know? And
reasonable
request.
You know,
we got we got the song across the finish line, and you know, it turned into us having a good bit of conversation for me to say that, basically, like, okay, I thought I was helping you guys produce this, and you know, the one guy who really was the one producing it was kind of like, no, you know, it was, I don't know, very likely my fault in that. That's really probably the worst time. There's been times where I haven't gotten the gig, but that's kind of how it goes sometimes for some songs. But
did you get any feedback around why that was? Was that just they went with someone else? Was it clear?
There was some of it was kind of a time issue, and just time in that we had just had Ellie, and I mean, that's my excuse, but it's still an excuse, so it stinks. But
is it hold on, I want to zoom into that. Is it an excuse? Like, are you using, hey, I just had a kid, can't do this because of fear or because of something else? Or like, is it an actual reason for not being able to do something?
I think I'm using it as an excuse. I think, you know, it's just tricky.
Let me zoom in here as the ghost of your mixing future. And as I slide up beside you on your deathbed, there will be no regret about this project you missed. As the only other parent at the table, we're going to put this one to bed right now. A child and that project is not an excuse. I mean, I like the spirit of it. I like you being tough on yourself and sort of, hey, I gotta muscle through here, but in this particular thing, it's like you got to prioritize at those moments, especially in year one. It's whatever your kid needs, your partner needs, and it's an intense time. So, you know, I would just cut yourself some slack on that one.
Ruairi, I feel like I've got a good view into Brian, into your position and your situation. I wonder if there's anything immediate now, like about the studio or about the current situation that could, any low hanging fruit there that we might be able to contribute to.
Hold on one second. Yeah, there was a few things I wanted to explore around that. I just wanted to hear about this scenario. I don't want to detour yet because there's a few things I wanted to know. So, like, that fear thing, I totally agree with Ruairi. Like, you have a kid, you're bringing life into this world. That is a priority. I was trying to get clear on, I think you understood, you used the word excuse, which is it's a powerful word. So like I want to just identify if there is fear in that, like taking on a project because you're like, damn, this seems like too much, like not too much, like there's a lot of work, but maybe it was one song, but you're just like, I'm intimidated by this, and I can use the fact that I have a kid to not take it. Like versus you genuinely wanted to spend time with your family and like you just didn't want to do the project. You know what I mean? Or it could be both. I wanted to get clear on that.
Yeah. No, I wanted the project. I had purchased some extra, plugins and whatever that I was excited for to use on this guy's project. I wanted it. I wanted to mix it, and I think we did jump into 2 or 3 songs. Eventually got them to a point where like they were feeling cool, and then it and I think we didn't there wasn't a clear layout of expectations, and expectations isn't the word, like deadlines, like that was not. It was just like, let's start mixing now. Okay, great, let's do it. And we jumped into it. And I think we, I wasn't aware of how quickly he was wanting to finish the project. And I wasn't trying to take my, sweet time. I was just, I was obviously like preoccupied with a baby, but I did have time when she was napping or when, that's when I had time. And I think too, he needed him just quicker than I could turn around at that point.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was more so like, so it wasn't necessarily an excuse. I want to zoom in on the language, because when words like that are used, I want to make sure it wasn't a fear-based thing. It was maybe it was just the wrong word used. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about practicing the building relationships thing, and then Spider just mentioned like what is a practical step, and I feel like I would be really interested to have you assess that based on practice and building relationships, 2 things that have come up this whole conversation. Like, what is one step that you could take? One small step. This, I actually was watching a video on this yesterday and listening to a podcast on it. The Kaizen method.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys know about this?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah. Small step. What is like the smallest thing you could do tomorrow?
I think that's what I could do is pull up an old mix and just remix it to like give myself more reps and just more time, like knowing my speakers, and I don't know. I don't feel like that fully answers it.
We already identified like there's the 9 to 5, and then there's family time, and you're already filling every other hour, so there aren't more hours in the day.
So Michael, if you have some place to go with this question, or if it leads to another question, I think that we're at a really interesting place. So I think 50 mixes just isn't enough data for anything.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't have
I've been wanting
enough.
to say that.
Yeah.
So we don't have enough. I mean, I started recording when I was 18, and I had done 50 mixes for clients before I was 18, like before I was finished with that year. And I was terrible, awful at it. You know what I mean? I was making records for money at that point. It's not enough to make any real observations about your ability, or even what you could be good at. And that's not to diminish the amount of effort you put in, but it's just purely in terms of the
opportunities. It's very few opportunities.
Well, the
phase that you're in.
Yeah. We were talking before we got on mic about a particular work frustration I had in the idea of chefing. And it's like, you know, if you've ever eaten with a great chef, you know, or someone who's just a natural cook, they can take the classic thing of like, you open up the fridge, whatever's there, and they can make something delicious. And it comes from having combined ingredients of all types in all contexts, you know, by the campfire, in the fancy kitchen with the 6 burners, the reps and the experience of input. So having worked on sparse 3-piece sort of, you know, chili pepper style, bare bones, you know, dry stuff, and super, you know, shoegaze rock, these different perspectives, the things that you take from genres, from styles, and particularly from people's needs and expectations. So I made a bunch of notes where we all say we all need better clients. We all are working towards better clients in our lives. But for you, it's particularly important that you get into situations where the water is here and you're working really hard to stay above it. Situations that really push you. Situations that are so, you know, we talk about lifting weights or whatever. If you're lifting weights and it's super comfortable and it's super easy, and you're not actually doing the work of breaking down muscle and regrowing it, you know, super simplistic version of that. But if it isn't hurting, if you're not at the edge of your ability or close to it for at least some of the time, you're not really growing. So I think if at this moment in the conversation, you know, the fundamental challenge is getting you more work, and preferably with people who will push you. You know, getting you into situations where you can develop. It's like, I would love to see you do 100 mixes more by the end of this year, or 50 mixes more. It's like, so a good question is, if I give you files for an indie rock band thing tonight, and your next workday, your next availability is Saturday, right? So
yes.
Can you get me a mix? If I get you files tonight, can you get me a mix back by Saturday evening? Like, can you turn around a typical rock mix in a day, in an available workday? Cool.
Yes, yeah. So
we know that you have work commitments and family commitments, but you've had more days than you've had clients waiting to work with you. So this reps piece, I think, is the linchpin problem right now.
Quantity and quality, as you say.
Yeah, well, I think, yeah, quantity and this is something that, you know, you being happy and clients being happy both have some value, but not if you don't know what you're capable of and the clients have low expectations. And I'm not saying that's the case in either.
Right.
But it just means that these things are not gold standards. It's not a kilogram that we can all agree. It's like there are certain people who are happy with really poor work and certain people who are never happy with genius, you know. So we can't, someone's level of satisfaction with their own work is not really, it's not the gold standard anyway. It's useful, but it's not. Yeah. So I think that's where I'd like to put maybe some of our energy for the next few minutes is, how do we increase your, because, you know, Spider was leading, just as Michael pulled it back, Spider was leading to like, let's talk about challenges with your studio or whatever, but really that's almost irrelevant until we can get more work, until we can just get you doing it more. So
yeah,
I think what's emerging is a sense that you said yourself you're introverted, you're in the suburb of Atlanta, you're not kind of in the time of life when you're going out to shows every night, and of course we've had a pandemic. You're not actually playing in a band at the moment yourself, so you're not full time. So your access to where you might get work is either people you've worked with before. You don't have a facility, you know, like there isn't a studio on the high street with a sign over, which sounds very quaint now in the modern music business, but you don't have you know what I mean? You don't have a storefront for what you do. So I guess we should zero in on how do we get you more opportunities to mix, and then how do we get you more opportunities to be pushed by clients? How do we raise the stakes on your work so that, because if you're, and I've worked with hundreds of local artists. When I lived in Ireland, I was in a similar situation. Small local market. I'm not even in the biggest city in this tiny country. I'm way down at the other end of the country. So I'm working with a lot of people, and a lot of them are happy with whatever. Like the vocal could be 3 dB too loud, or the snare 3 dB too loud, and they're like, sounds great. My record is on my car stereo. They're not going to help me level up. I could do that 1,000 times and never get better. I need to work with someone who challenges me. And that might be something that you have to do for free. Or it might be something that you have to find a mentor who will push you, send you stuff to work on, and with expectations, and raise your... So they're the kind of words I have written down, is like, get better clients, don't trust the opinion of your current clients, are you challenged enough? Do you have a mentor? How long are you taking per mix? These sort of the immediate things of how do we get you more reps with higher stakes. So I don't know. I'd love anyone. I know you've got to go soon, John, so I'd love your take on this, or Michael or Spider before.
I was thinking about the reps thing too, and the free word keeps coming to my mind. It's just doing it. But I also relate to the introversion, and before coming to LA, I didn't go out and meet anybody, and we had a storefront, so I had the laughable thing, that the quaint, laughable storefront,
and a more buoyant time in the business, probably being. I mean, it wasn't amazing, but it was a more buoyant.
Yeah, but Long Island wasn't very buoyant.
Sure.
When it came to the type of the clientele that was coming through, so it's very relatable. Suburban, like, oh yeah, everyone's happy with what's coming out to a degree, and it's not high stakes. Your head's above water and some. Mm-hmm. And then jumping forward to today, which is 11 years in LA, mixing for one of the biggest artists in the world. I'm like, oh my God, I hope they like this. Like, really trying to show up. Like it is gone. I'm on the full spectrum, so I'm trying to come at this from both sides. And I mean, I can't imagine a day where it's easy, because the struggle is real forever. But the only way to have any sort of confidence that what you're delivering is what someone wants, and some, right? We don't want just what somebody wants. It's what they didn't even think that they could get. And it kind of sounds like that's what you're interested in the records anyway. There's ear candy moments that you emphasize, these kind of just left of center, these out of the ordinary aesthetics. You're at the table with the people that listen that way, and that only comes with study. That comes with practice, and what Michael was getting at, like, what's the difference there, and where are you at in that? And when the reps is the only way. And I was going to say, and then you said it, I was going to bring up, just remix something you did, and then Spider's interjection is actually really important, because I was biting my tongue about to reiterate what Brian said, which was that. But yeah, your hours are filled. You have family. You already have work. I don't know that mixing the same song again is going to help. That's what I did. That's what I did at 17, 18, 19, because the studio wasn't booked. So I relate to that, and I'm finding myself wanting you to do that, but also I just do new work for free. It's the same thing. It's the same use of the time. It's a better use of the same time.
Yeah, because you can get a network effect from
Yes, exactly. That's what we're trying to get. In the introversion part, I'm really relating to, because I'm now a bit more open to socializing and going out, but I've never asked for a project out. I've never been at a party and say, I should mix your record. Like, those words have never come out of my mouth. So I don't know what that's going to do for you, right? I don't have any case study for myself that says, go out and ask, but go out and be friendly and tell someone this is what you do, and express your values and what you stand for. How, like Ruairi said earlier, how do you like your stems? How do you like to work? Do you like to work in the morning? Do you like, all these things are really those virtues that quote unquote sell us. And granted, other people are going to do it by just shouting out to the streets that they're the best at what they do, and then that's going to land certain clients. But those aren't your people, and they're not my people, and that's fine. They're someone else's people. But the reps, like that's the only way. Because when you said 50 songs in however many years, I wanted to just jump in really negatively, like that's not enough, but everyone else took it positively and tried to understand what that means. And to me, that's just not enough. Like I don't know what it would mean, to reach out to someone and say, hey, I need my 56 mix. Give it to me. I got this. I mean, I'm sure there's something there.
So this is, I'm going to jump in and say this is a moment when we take stock of, where we're at in the conversation. And what we're not saying is that 50 songs means you're lazy. We're not trying hard enough.
Without a doubt. No, I would never.
And it's very important that, several times during workshops that I do with Spider, we have to stop because someone will sort of spiral on something, or maybe one of us with an idea. And it's like, let's stop and take stock here. Yeah. And what you have is an incredible opportunity because you have this wonderful sounding family. You own your home, which is just an incredible achievement that none of the four of us have pulled off right now. You are, you know what I mean? So you have the space to build something in your garage that you can own outright and not pay thousands of dollars in rent every month like we all do here. So you have a day job that you like with people that you like doing stimulating creative work, and you have headroom. You have some headroom. You don't need to, if I don't master records next week, my kids don't eat like some number of weeks after that. Like there is not much headroom. I've got to keep working. I've got to have a certain number of projects. You have some headroom. So what that means is when we think about this project of leveling up, you have this incredible asset, which is gear that you own and the time to commit. And what's I think emerging in the conversation is this wonderful sense of care, and I would go so far as to say kind of reverence for songs and singers and performers, right?
And creativity,
which is very dear to my heart, and something that maybe we could use a little more of in the world, right? So I think it's important to, I just wanted to say that we don't want to, I think there's a lot in your favor in terms of getting better. That doesn't make the music business and the music business from part-time from Atlanta any less challenging. It's a super challenging business. I don't know why I'm making this shape with my hands for super challenging, but it really is. But you have a next move. You have so what I'm interested in is within these constraints, what can we do to get you opportunities? What's important to me is that the next projects that you mix are chosen to help you level up, that they're intentional, and that they're, so let's say, for example, there's a producer in your area who's doing the most interesting work, and she is working with the kinds of bands you do, but she has a regular engineer, but you know that there are projects that she takes on that are, it may be passion projects for her, or the band doesn't have the budget, or they're whatever, that there's someone we can get at and say, hey, I would like to do this project with you. I would like to, someone who would place demands on you that would stretch you, that would give you notes that were meaningful rather than just, hey, I'm lost on this shitty song, listening on my bad stereo with one busted speaker out of phase, and I think the snare should be louder. It's like, we can do this for the rest of your life and you'll never get better. And I'm not, again, I'm not diminishing your clients. I'm just, these are real scenarios I've been in, where you're taking notes on something and you're just, it's not actually leveling you up, or them, honestly. So that's my little pitch.
I love that.
I would love anyone to take that and run with it, in terms of either ideas or thoughts, or anything else. Where, I just wanted to mark, there's lots of reasons for optimism here. And the one thing about a low number is that we have room to grow it. I know people doing 20, 15 and 20 mixes a week who wish they had more time to spend, or wish they were working on genres that they're not, or wish that clients would pay them sometime in the same eon, whatever. There are people for whom they have the number, but there's some other thing or many other things that they're struggling with. So the number is not everything. You know what I mean? Okay, over to you guys.
I just want to play off your idea, which is like, that's unique. What you're saying in an abstract sense is there may be a unique opportunity for you to take that can advance your career, or a unique opportunity to find. I shouldn't say take, but to find, to discover, to cultivate, and then that can lead to your 56th mix and 57th, etc. And in a way that solves that problem we were talking about, or the two-pronged problem, which is practice and relationship building. So I think my thought the whole time was, how do you move one step forward in this network that you have? If you were to draw it out, literally, like every single person you knew, every person they knew that you've interacted with, like there would be an image. You'd actually be able to see it. Like, what's that new node? You know what I mean? What do you want it to be?
Maybe the node exists already, but
maybe it exists.
Needs to be cultivated, as you say.
Right. So it might honestly be worth, as odd and psychopathic as this may sound, but to think about that network. Really think about, the opportunities that are in front of you, or the people that are in front of you, the potential relationships in front of you, and say, like, those nights that you could be mixing, part of the mix process is finding a mix. So it's, you don't need to do it at a desk in front of a studio, but it's still part of that process. So finding that next person to engage with, once a week, twice a week, or whatever, finding, and then after that, finding the next person to do that with. This hits home for me. This whole conversation, just all of it. It's difficult to build a business. It's difficult to grow a network. These things are not easy. I love what Ruairi said, that you have a home, a daughter, a wife. You have these, a secure job. I mean, these are all great and worth taking stock of, because there is one other thing that you need to have, which is patience. You can't rush you being an amazing mixer. Even if you worked with someone amazing who's challenging you, you still can't rush you getting there. You could accelerate it, and that's the hope. So I think when you're thinking about these relationships, think about what can accelerate you, who can accelerate you, and build from there, and give it time. I think that's really important. That's something that I spent a lot of time learning. That's why it's home for me, is that the time is a factor, and things just take time naturally. And like I said, they can be accelerated, but they still take time. There's so many little things that we could list for episode after episode that come in time, that you learn in time, you refine in time, you identify the polarity of it, and explore one side of it, and then realize, oh, there's another side, and oh, sometimes I need to do that. Like, there's so much of that comes in time. And that's why I think the guys are saying, oh, it's only 50 mixes. What they're really saying is there's so much left to be explored in the 56th and 7th. So
Yeah.
that was a long ramble, but I agree with what Ruairi said. I think finding a opportunity either within your network or just outside of it or far outside of it that can help you get that next mix, that will help accelerate your growth, and while being patient, that relationship might take a year. And obviously then find another next step to keep practicing.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, there's the finding where to invest. And then there's what may be difficult for introverts, and I've had difficulty with this at different levels, sometimes not at all, but sometimes yes, which is really sharing being open and letting people know what you're excited and passionate about, what you love, like really demonstrating it in the way you live, and also like in conversation being able to talk about it and to bring other people into it. Because just to know people who need a mix isn't enough. It's like they have to have the reason. And one of those reasons we tried to get at earlier, which is the differentiator, which again will come in time, right? It'll emerge from the work. Give it enough reps and enough opportunity. Some diversity of in the work. But I think Michael and I have worked, for instance, with PMC to sort of enlighten, not enlighten, but to reinvigorate that original passion that engineers have, like that moment when they were young, when they fell in love with music and knew that they were going to do this for the rest of their lives, what that felt like. And if you look at our Instagram page, I think you see that kind of energy and that kind of excitement and optimism and that youthful energy, right? So that isn't the tone for everyone. Whatever your tone is, this care and reverence, as Ruairi said, whatever it is you are needs to be somehow on display, so that people can connect to it. It'll attract the right people. And when we sort of create a facade, an idealized version of ourselves that we think people will like, then that's what people connect to, and eventually we can't deliver that. So just some way of really allowing yourself to be known on this network, not just finding who, but how you are, like what you're communicating. And there are various ways to do it. Obviously, like Instagram is can be a powerful way to do it, but also just in the way you talk to the people in your life, because people want to help other people, right? When you get in a room and you're like, man, I'm so into this thing, but I'm having this, gears start turning, and that's whenever we interview, we've been a part of a lot of different kinds of public events, like through PMC or at the AES convention or at NAMM or at the ASCAP Expo, or and even here on the podcast. You ask people like how they got where they are. It's always, well, I met this guy and he introduced me to this guy and a thing, and the fuel, like the energy that's behind what motivates that, it's like being able to see a need and being able to fill it, for someone who seems deserving in some way. So, I don't know how else to put it, but I think there's a thing there about not just who, but how you communicate what you love.
I want to just tag off that, and then I want to bring Brian back in. One other sort of obvious, maybe not so obvious opportunity or positive about being in Atlanta is that Atlanta is a huge town for R&B, hip hop, and what that means is that the people who don't do it are the outsiders. There's a smaller group of people, a subculture, who make indie rock or folk or indie folk or indie folk pop, whatever, all the ways that these things intersect, which is a big part of the work that I do. So that means that you're in a place where there's a dominant culture and you guys get to be the sort of cool subculture, and there's an opportunity there to be more close-knit. So I'm just writing down as Spider's talking, the Michael's patience piece, the passion that Spider demonstrated, you have it, we can see it, sharing it and demonstrating it. That's something that I probably struggled with for a long time, is being sort of open with what I liked and how much, how excited I was about certain things. Your care, I think that'll just come across when you work with people. It came across as simple as it is, just the way that you interacted with us from the moment that your name was selected at random for this workshop. The care to give me the extra details, to send me the photos, your response to the technical requirements for tonight, the thoroughness, There was, it was really easy to work with you. And that, so I can see that even in our small little project that we've done together to get to here. Your song-centric thing, the reverence for music, the opportunity that Atlanta presents. And then the other thing I wanted to say was the importance of having a little cohort, of finding your four, as that's the phrase that we use for it. But I just spoke to a mixer friend this morning to set up a weekly call where we would, like Monday morning, like our Unfuck call, we do a podcast sync every week, and Unfuck Spider Kyle and I do a call every week on Friday mornings. And I want to do one for my mastering work where I'm syncing with some friends and clients as well, as a sort of a Monday morning, like, okay, what are we doing this week, guys? Let's set some intentions. What did we struggle with last week? Hey, you said you were going to figure out your backup scenario. Did you get it done? Or are you still fucking winging it over there with that janky lacy drive or whatever? Like, we're going to keep kind of hold each other to account, but with a specific mission around our work. So I don't know if you have a cohort like that, or if you, even if it's just one buddy that you're doing it with. So I think we've dumped a lot on you. I'd love to hear from you what you're thinking and feeling right now.
Yeah. No, I was just listening to the podcast is what I was doing. Taking it all in. Yeah, I guess there's a couple of things. John had mentioned not wanting to be negative, and I never thought that him saying 50 reps is not enough was negative. I think it's just realistic. And it's like, and I feel like that's something that like I've always known. Mm-hmm. And it, it's one of those things, like, it doesn't feel cool to admit that stuff, but that's where I'm at, and I can kind of only be honest about that. And
your props for that are coming at the end.
But that's what I mean about people seeing need. Mm-hmm. If you don't admit that, then no one knows to help you find more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They can't be that for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a huge thing. Sorry, carry on. But that's a really important point.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I guess, I don't know. I don't want to, I don't know. Spider, that does make me think though, like, what is it? Does that look like, like kind of calls for work in that, whether it's like to someone indirectly or it's like a kind of general like post on Instagram that's like hey, I have some time on the calendar, like, to take on some mixes. If you got anything, shoot it to me. I'd love to work with you. Like,
I don't know. I mean, I think around the passion, like approaching an artist that you're interested in and offering your services to start some kind of relationship. I think to me that plays better. I think, like, I have time in that's a bit of a commodity kind of approach, and it doesn't quite reflect what you're about. I don't think you're about filling calendar slots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's good.
I mean, I think it does seem that approaching some artists who are doing interesting things. I just a month ago I found this singer in the UK on Instagram. Someone just put a little video, maybe it was a reel or something, of her looping some vocals. Brilliant singer, and I didn't know anything about her. It'll come to me in a second.
Imogen?
No. It'll come to me in a second.
Yeah.
But anyway, good vibes. And, over the course of following her for a month, you see, she has a record coming. And it's like, she's doing all these reels and these looping things, and they're really musical and inventive. And then the record comes and it's like, that's not great.
This
that's
is
not
so common.
That's not a great sounding record.
Yeah.
Now, at some point on her trajectory, there's an opportunity, a little window opens where, assuming she's someone whose music you like and she doesn't have 1 billion followers and a deal with Universal, there's a little window that opens where you can DM her, and she's getting, not that many DMs a day, and it's like, hey, I think what you're doing on this video is really inventive or cool.
Yeah, something specific.
Yeah. And her feeling heard and understood is meaningful, and you mean it, and there's an opportunity to help her level up and help you. It's a win and help win situation, as we've quoted Balaji many times at the table, right? Is that Balaji or Naval? But anyway, it's a good thing. So it's a genuine opportunity to say, hey, I have this resource of time and I need good art to work with, and you have this good art and you need engineering. Like, we can all, and that seems like a much better use of your time than, say, getting paid $300 by whoever might call you next to do a mix, or $500, because you have some headroom. And it's like, if I asked you, hey, people pay $3,000 to go to Mix with the Masters, or $4,000 or whatever, they invest in trying to get better.
Mm-hmm.
Finding a good artist who will hold you to account, who has something, if I say to you, here's a pile of trash, run across the room with it. If you fall over, it doesn't matter. It's a sort of a meaningless thing. If I give you something valuable and say, hey, don't fuck this up. This is important to me. This is my grandma's priceless vase. There's a level of care, and it brings out a responsibility in you that I think is a natural place for you because of the guy we're getting to know, right?
Yeah.
So
not many people can serve very sensitive artists, the most sensitive.
Yeah.
Can be patient enough and be like, egoless is a word that keeps coming back to me.
That's what's emerging, is that sort of image. So with that, you could be a doormat to people who are lost and making, whatever, vanity projects or whatever, or you could really be in service of something better, something that you would be proud to play, and you would feel, that I've talked at the table about the tension, but as a parent, you never have enough time with your kids, and you never have enough time alone, and you never have enough time at work. But one of the only ways that you can solve that equation is by saying, hey, I'm proud of what I do, and I'm modeling something for my children. I'm modeling a life where I build relationships with people that I care about, and I invest in them, and I demonstrate that, and I work on things that matter, that have an effect in the world, and I'm fair in my pricing, and I honor my word. So the work becomes part of how you parent and how you model life for your kids. So, but that said, you're investing a resource. A night in the studio is a night away from your wife, or a night away from your kid, or a bedtime missed. So it's got a price, even if it's free,
Yeah.
So you want to invest it wisely. And I think you probably already have an intuition for what those kinds of projects might look like. And communicating to the world, we had Ethan Gruska at the table here, who has done extraordinary work, or Blake Mills, people like that. They're the records that I want to work on. And by sharing with the world that this is what I love, people who have those sensibilities will feel, that I'm a kindred spirit, and that maybe that I understand why the bottom end needs to feel this way, or why, whatever the thing might be.
Alignment.
The alignment. So, as a practical step, it seems like that's kind of what comes next.
Find people to help level up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mutually beneficial.
You didn't get to answer. Sorry, we kind of cut across you.
We did.
The cohort. Do you have a group of people that a little tribe that you run with?
Not entirely. I would say that I feel like I'm an outsider in. I'm an outsider of a group that does exist.
Okay.
And I think I get fringe pieces of like, hey, we're just gonna, like I was available to mix a quick single, and so I did it. Or I'm working on currently like a record, I'm working on 2 songs that are a part of a bigger record that some of those guys are producing the vast majority of the record.
Nice.
And I'm thrilled to have 2 songs on it.
That's great.
Because I've never worked in collaboration with those guys.
That's
to have
that's
one
a good way. Yeah.
Beautiful example of what we're talking about, of stakes.
Yeah. One of my songs will be bleeding into one of theirs. So we've, there's been not a ton, but there's been some communication about like, okay, great. Like let's send me a clip of that first piece so that I can, I don't know, reverse it, throw reverb on it so it blends into your track really cool or whatever. So, just collaborating that way. But not a lot is basically the core answer. But there are bits and pieces. For a group. I do certainly have a core group of friends that do make music and we work together, but it's not I don't know, it's not I don't know what the word is. Basically, it's not big enough, I guess. It's not sustainable for me to, like, obviously I will keep working with them because they're my like dear friends, but it's I need to keep that growing and pulling in more people and all that stuff. So.
And there are friends, there are friendships where your friends are like, "Hey, buddy, you're great," and there are other groups where people hold you to account and sort of are more intentional in how they're trying to level you up. I mean, Michael and I have a very deliberate practice. Like, Michael's writing a book right now, and it's like once every couple of weeks, I'm hitting Michael with some thing about the book or responding to something from one of his IG lives, and it's like we have these conversations. Spider and I have spent the last 2 years doing this for each other, sort of intentionally pushing each other, leveling each other up, asking the tough questions. So but I have other friends with whom I just don't do that. They're my friends, and we have fun, and we talk about nice things.
One of the differences is commitment.
Yes.
Making a commitment like you're doing with your Monday mornings.
Yeah.
Working with friends. It sounds like you get the social benefits from this core friendship group, but like on the craft side, it's not challenging you, or the expectations aren't there to sort of bring you up to that next level. And I'm wondering if there aren't opportunities to make commitments with certain people that you may know or may know of, that will represent some kind of challenge and upward mobility.
It might. I mean, it might even. We don't. It might even be within that friend group that there's a sort of a latent need for that too.
Could be.
Maybe some of the other guys and girls are.
Maybe they're just
also
not activated in that way.
And that's a sort of a leadership question of kind of.
Can you rally a situation?
Yeah, and that's all new stuff for me in the last couple of years, and I'm 45. So, you know what I mean? Being anything like that in a, in any space is new. So, as Michael says, you could be doing it for 13 years, and by the time you're my age, and I've only been doing it for a minute. So there's a lot of opportunity there. It might just be that you're sitting on a cohort that you could ignite a little bit, even if it was
That's
just
the
kind
power
of
of organization.
And sometimes you ask people questions like, "Hey," like some of the questions we're asking you, and no one has asked them. No one has challenged them or been interested enough, or you might just be able to ignite something there. So there's opportunity in that immediate group, and obviously trust and shared love. So
I definitely have people that come to mind, for doing that with, that are kind of already people that do ask me good questions, even beyond music, and kind of having that, be potentially the start of, what did you say, of my four? Or
we rock that. We sort of rock that phrase, "Find your four," because it's what we sort of did with this, but. It could be 3, it could be 7. It's
not literal.
It's it's some people to hold you to account, and people from that episode that you recommended, Michael, and you posted about it today, Jim.
Jim
Collins, and he was saying, these people that you don't want to disappoint, and I really like that.
That's
framing
expectations again.
I like that which ties in with a lot of Jordan Peterson's thinking about that the key to happiness is to have people depending on you and expectations.
Yeah, it's meaning over happiness. Yeah.
Michael, did you want to take it somewhere? You were about to say something.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the relationship side of things. Like, we talk about it a lot. We've said find your four. We've talked about the relationships, the term, and I was just thinking how we should probably devote more time at some point, either a little bit on this episode, but maybe another, about relationship building and sort of the nuances around that. Because there's a lot to it, and time is a big factor in it too. That's why I brought up patience and time before, because to get good at a practice, building relationships is another skill, you know? And I was just thinking, you know, have we talked about that a lot, you know, or really zoomed in on it, you know, like we did with, you know, a few weeks ago about what makes sort of a timeless song, or you know, what goes into that. It'd be interesting to do something similar around relationship building, because there's a lot to it.
Yeah, I think so. To me, you know, like you mentioned, sort of joked about it being sort of psychopathic, but a lot of that intentional stuff sounds icky. But to tie into Spider's point earlier, I mean, for us, it was the thing that connected us was the shared puzzle of PMC.
Yeah,
it's kind of like, what is with this company? How do we?
Yeah.
Why do people want
so
these
much
things?
Opportunity here?
Why is this happening this way? What's the opportunity here?
Yeah.
What's this guy doing over here? Shouldn't we have one of these in the company? Like we had this shared sort of puzzle, really, that Spider and I both got. It's like a fucking Rubik's Cube, and the two of us would have these 2-hour conversations where we're like, I don't know, I think if you twist it this way, the yellows will line up. It's like, no, man. And we would just go in, and in that process of the shared puzzle, we sort of discovered that we liked hanging out, and we had other things that we had in common.
There were other puzzles.
So, yeah, there were other puzzles. But so I suppose as an immediate step, I think, you know what, Michael, I'm realizing that the reason I'm sort of reluctant on this, not reluctant, but the reason I'm like, I don't know what to do with this thing about networking and stuff is that the things that are easy for me, I do well, and the things that are not, I just know nothing about. So it's like, I feel like I've almost got nothing to say on it. But I do think, you know, there are lots of people that I meet who are antisocial or odd in some way. You're bright and funny and capable of obviously conducting a good conversation. So I think if you can bring a shared puzzle to the table with the right person, you'll probably find common ground very quickly. Like the relationships will be very organic.
Yes.
And that's not true for everyone.
Yeah, a common project, a problem to solve, you know.
And again, that hunger, I think that latent hunger is there with a lot of people. A lot of people are looking for meaning, and they're looking for projects, and there are people who are busier than you, I said this earlier, who are doing a lot of work, but are not fulfilled by it. You know, so it might just be that you can bring the puzzle or the project or the meaning or the sense of community or the whatever. You can be the guy who leads with that in some situation, you know?
Yeah.
Which leads me to something I want to say. Maybe, I guess it's coming on time when we should probably wrap it up. At this point, I would love to, one of the, what we have with the podcast is very small. It's a little tiny green shoot. And we're trying to figure stuff out on mic and trying to build a community, and it's difficult and it's slow work. But one of the things that I'm proudest of is watching people who are in our small network in different parts of the country connect directly, not via us. So people who are connected initially only by the fact that they were a fan of John's or you know, followed Michael's page and IG's or whatever, that they found each other. So at this point, I'd love to say to the people listening, if there's something happening here that Brian is saying, or a shared value, or something you think you can reach out with, I think it'd be a great time to hit him up on a DM and just, you know, if you've got a song that you wrote and recorded but you haven't had time to mix, or an idea that we haven't explored about how he could build something, then this is a great chance to share and to connect. Because I've had some really, really great conversations with listeners. So, yeah. So I just wanted to say that to the community at large. I feel like there's work undone because of the way our normal workshops go.
I know.
We normally get into a very practical, technical second phase of the conversation,
which is really valuable and something I want to demonstrate at some point.
Yeah. It feels a little small beer at this this context.
Yeah, I think you're right. I was just trying to steer it away from a kind of psychological place, which I tend to do.
Yeah. Michael, are there any big stones left unturned? I mean, there's lots. There's some we could go all night, and we could go many nights. Yeah. But is there something that you think we should touch on before we wrap it up?
I mean, I just heard your exchange just now, and I was thinking, I think that's undervaluing what took place. I think that installing panels is easy to know. It's like, it's fucked up over there. If we just did something right there, like 80% of the problems that are happening in the room would be fixed. I like when you go to the psychological place, Spider, and I was doing that tonight because we are a room into ourselves, and psychology plays a big role in why it's fucked up in one area and not another area, So I think tonight was more about why are the gaps of time in your life where you could be doing, and you want to be rather, mixing. Why is that not taking place? And what panels need to be installed that you might not have seen, metaphorical panels. And I think that is practice in relationships. And unfortunately, it's not. I wish, trust me, I think we all do. If we could just be like, all right, all I need to do is drill this in the wall, and now I got my network. I'm good at exactly what I need to do. It would be amazing. I keep thinking of The Mandalorian. Every episode, he would conquer something and then get a new piece on his suit. And that stuck with me so much. He started with the shitty suits, episode 1, season 1, and then the end of season 2, it's a shiny, beautiful suit. And you saw it being earned. I think that there's a lot of truth to that. I think that's why people like the show, but there's a lot of truth to that in consulting of any kind. Like, there's so much to be learned, and I wish that you could have come on today. We're like, oh, dude, literally just walk outside, hit this button, and bam, like your whole life's changed. It would be irresponsible for us to say any of that. I think the truth is, it's going to take time. You seem like someone who commits to things they care about, and if you commit the time to the relationship end, even more than the practice end, because it will lead to that. If you get the right relationships, you'll have the right type of practice, and you'll want to practice even harder, or maybe properly, you could say, not harder necessarily, when those right relationships are in place. So I think, give that time, self-compassion along the entire journey of that. Don't lose the fire during that process, because I could imagine it would be fragmented, the times that you have to do that, the opportunities you have. But also realize it's very simple. I don't want to blow it up too much where it's like, well, where do I start? I mean, it's as simple as I'm just looking at my messages on screen because I want to make sure, if anything's happening, I could see it. And I'm seeing, people that I talk to that I've met via the internet, that I've then met in person, that have become friends. And this has been happening over years and years, like over a decade. Sometimes that turned into a job offer or a networking opportunity that turned into another person, that turned into another, that turned into a job offer or a business opportunity or a project or a new idea, a new, Mandalorian.
New piece of armor, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, I think why I wanted to get into the relationship type things is that sort of the list of what all that is sometimes like it's not a gig that's going to emerge from it. Yeah, it's funny. I'm thinking about Jared Masters and I. We first talked. The first time we ever talked was just, hey, can you do like marketing for this company I work for? Now he doesn't even work at that company, and like that's not what we talk about ever. You know what I mean? And it's about us as individuals, and like maybe that turns into something. Maybe not. Like maybe there's a project in 10 years. You know, but then from that, Christian, who's helping me with the book. He mentioned something on the phone the other day, and I was like, oh man, Jared just mentioned that. And then I could pair them up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can foresee that, but who knows where that can lead, you know? And so, and as long as you're building a community that's doing that for you, and you're doing that for them, and you're giving yourself the time, I mean, that's really all you can do. Yeah. That's what I have to say. The last part, in my personal closing of this episode, and guys, please feel free to take it after this. I just wanted to thank you for admitting things that you may have never needed to admit out loud, or never maybe admitted at all, or were afraid to, or hesitant to. You know, the music industry can be filled with, you know, you see the flexes, you see the big moments. So saying, hey, I only did 50 songs, and maybe it was 30. Maybe you're lying. I don't know. Maybe it was 10. It doesn't matter. Like, even 50, like, that is not 3,000 this month, you know? Like, so, which some people may say. And I really, something I love about this podcast is that we can create, and this community and the conversation and the people in it, is that we can create a space safe enough where you can have that. But honestly, it starts with the individuals like yourself and like what you did tonight, where you were willing to be vulnerable and willing to be open, because that's going to help a lot of people, I'm sure.
Yeah, that means a lot to me too. I mean, it may not feel like it in the moment, but it very often, these moments of vulnerability are the highest value in an entire conversation, in terms of like who it reaches and how it helps people, how it helps motivate people, or how it makes people, especially up and coming people, feel like, oh, it's not just me, or any you know, it's just an opportunity to know someone at a deeper, more personal, intimate level, even at a distance like this. It's not the easiest thing to do, and I appreciate that you went there, and I think you made it more valuable for all of us as a consequence.
Cool. Well, yeah, it definitely felt like, I mean, I felt very comfortable, you know, talking to you guys, and I think you guys do such a great job of fostering that in this community. And I guess, yeah, that was my hope, is like, well, if I'm going to say that I've only mixed 50 songs, I hope it's helpful for somebody. So
yeah.
Yeah.
No, but, you know, just, yeah, agree with what the guys are saying. I just wanted to say one thing before we close, and it's probably the wrong place in the conversation to say it, but it occurred to me. So, and this could be me talking to myself, but certainly a big limiting factor for me over the years was feeling that I would meet people through my work with PMC that were, you know, ostensibly opportunities, but I would feel that I wasn't ready in my own work, because I'm a very harsh critic of my own work. I'm very aware of, you know, if you ask me who's the best mastering engineer in the world right now, it's Randy Merrill at Sterling. He is consistently doing the best work across multiple genres, right? And I know that I'm not as good as him. There are things I do well, things I do very well. There are people with very big names who I would confidently go up against all day long, and some of them I have done and beaten. Some of them I have done and lost, right? Randy Merrill is someone I can benchmark myself against and say, fuck it, you know, this guy's really good. So I'm a very harsh critic, and that self-criticism is useful because it motivates me to try to get better and to spend the time. But it also is kind of toxic, right? So we've teased that out at the table. I'm sure if you've listened, you've heard it, and I've been a regular sad sack on many episodes about stuff like this, right? But what I wanted to get to is that there is a self-limiting that happens where I get in situations that, you know, let's imagine there's an opportunity and I don't present with either confidence or even curiosity because I'm self-limiting. So the clumsy analogy would be, you want to be a carpenter, and there is a really great carpenter in your area, or a really great project, a house being built or whatever, and you think, well, I don't know everything about carpentry. I'm not as good as this guy or girl, so I'm not going to do it. And what I would say is that what we've identified tonight is there's a bunch of stuff you do well. So, okay, you don't know how to work a screwdriver. You haven't, sanded enough fucking door frames, right? But you know how to swing a hammer, and you have a hammer, and you've driven enough nails, and you can get on site and drive a fucking bunch of nails, right? So the point of the story is that, look, you don't have all the pieces and you don't have all the reps, but you do have care, passion, probably a pretty nice selection of gear based on the fact that you've got a day job and you've been curating it over a minute. So you've probably got nice mics and pre's and things that a lot of your maybe even full-time engineer friends don't have. And you've got this house and now the studio coming, this family that is just such a huge source of resilience and love when you take a beating in the studio on a given week, right? To be able to come home to a family, it's such a big deal. So you have all these things, all these hammers you can swing, and that's really important to come at opportunity from that place. And the openness around, hey, listen, there are people who get success by going into that job site and pretending they know how to drive a screwdriver, and they don't. And they can wing it and they bullshit it and maybe they get away with it. That's not going to be your path. I think really owning the things you're good at and the stuff that you understand and care about and love and know, that'll be the platform that you step from to the next level. So don't underestimate the stuff you have got happening and that you've done, and your description of a mix that works. It, like I said, that's more eloquent than just that thinking that leads to that sentence.
Yes,
is more thinking that a lot of mixers have done. A lot of mixers have no idea how to get out of the way, and you not only have you done it, you can recognize its value. So you're bringing something there that's very meaningful. And
proper orientation.
Yeah, proper orientation. Something that we want for everyone, in the game. So yeah, I guess that's it. Again, I want to sort of reiterate the call to the community. If you've got something for Brian that you think is useful, a piece of information or a piece of the puzzle or a song to mix, reach out to us, whatever. Yeah. I mean, I could do this.
I know
a lot.
I could do this every 4 weeks.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the roadmap, and the hope is that as we do it for people with different puzzles and at different levels, that we can sort of illuminate different aspects of the challenges, and that maybe different people can see different, parts of themselves in our various workshop attendees. So. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I wish we had more time, and I'm looking forward to staying in touch. My 2 conversations with you so far have been a pleasure, and let's keep doing it.
Yeah. Well,
anything else you want to close out with, guys?
Well, what's next week in our episode cycle that we're doing?
AMA next week.
AMA. So we're doing another AMA. We're going to collect thoughts and ideas and stuff from
voice memos from the community.
What people
really,
Oh yeah,
it would be really cool if Brian could do a follow-up a week later.
Or we could.
I mean, it's not a requirement.
No, or we could tag it on to it doesn't need to be a full episode follow-up. We could tag it on at the end of next week, or...
That's what I mean, yeah. If you want to call in and just tell us how the last week went since we spoke, that could be really cool. Be interested in hearing that.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Yeah, we have workshop clients for whom, when we check in with them 2 weeks later, some people have written us a letter, which is really... lovely. Looking at Graham here, and shows the care they put into thoughts. Some people have gotten back on to to the next workshop and they're just fired up with like all of the stuff that's been released. And other people, they're like, yeah, thought about what you said. I'm going to do this anyway, or not, like, but what they have, we've challenged their ideas or we've pushed them and they have certainty. They've like, yeah, I've taken that on board, but no, I'm going to do this thing, or I want to be a producer, or I realize that, I want to be a string arranger, whatever. So the process of coming back around is really useful in our world. So I think it would be really useful here too.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's figure that out maybe on our thread. And but let's have you back to talk about maybe how some of this percolates.
I'd love that.
And
cool.
Yeah.
Great.
All right. On that note, let's wrap it up. Thank you for your openness and as the guy said, and for just showing up. And it's late there. Get some sleep.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. See ya.
Until next time.
Conversations is produced and mixed by Dylan Seals. The Conversations theme was performed and recorded by the Hazelrick Brothers.